It's what you get when you pay yourself first. It's profit. Support for this podcast comes from Charles Schwab. Whatever your unique financial picture looks like, saving for retirement, putting your kids through college, Schwab has the resources and the solutions to help. You can learn more at schwab.com. Hey, welcome to the Military Money Show, where I help the military community make, save, and invest money wisely. I'm your host, Lacey Langford, the Military Money Expert. Paying yourself first is a foundation for financial success. But what does that mean and why should you do it? Many people are currently living paycheck to paycheck. That means at the end of the month or the end of the year, after working their butts off, there's no money in the bank to show for. In that case, if you were a business, your business might fail because you have no profit. You might be fine for a while like that, but you won't go the long haul. My guest today, Rocky Lalvani, is back on the show to talk about why you should pay yourself first and how you can do it. Rocky is the profit answer man and a profit-first professional. He helps business owners achieve financial success and utilize the profits from their business to live a life of abundance. Rocky is the millionaire next door. He started out with basically nothing when his parents immigrated to the United States when he was 2 years old and his dad was 42. It was his parents' second big move in life, and they were starting over again to create the American dream. In spite of a lot of struggles and his mom passing away when he was 7, he was able to achieve financial success and wants to share that lesson he has learned along the way so others can achieve financial success. Rocky and I have a great conversation about the principles behind the super successful book, Profit First, and how you can apply those principles to help your personal finances turn a profit. Here is my chat with Rocky. Hey, Rocky, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me back, Lacey.
I thought you would be the perfect person for this show because it's something that I'm super interested in right now. And I know this is actually your zone of genius and your business. I thought I read this book before, and I think I started it and didn't finish it, but I have been reading Profit First. So basically doing a review of it. And reading it this time around, even though this is a business book, I think a lot of people should read this for their personal finances because it really, I think, explains things in a way that I think people might understand better, or maybe how they should approach their personal finances and treat it like a business. And that way they're keeping things running smoothly. So that is why I know you didn't write the book, but you are the profit answer man.
That's correct.
Yes. All right. So I want to start off with, what is Profit First? Like, let's talk about what the book is and, what are the principles of it?
So the book is by Mike Michalowicz. He is a serial entrepreneur. And like all entrepreneurs, they think they have all the answers. And his company is actually the one that did the fraud investigations of Enron. And he said, yeah, they're guilty. And then he eventually ended up selling that company, walking away with lots of money. And then he quickly blew it all.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I didn't get to that in the book first.
I don't think it's in the book.
Okay.
It's only because I know Mike. Like, I've heard his backstory. And so as part of that, he said, how did I screw up so bad? Like, what's going on? And one of his aha moments was that his accountant gave him the wrong formula for profit, right? So the accountant tells you the formula for profit is sales minus expenses equals profit. So what is profit? It's a leftover. It's an afterthought. Most business owners don't know if they're profitable until tax time, when the accountant says, hey, congratulations, you're profitable. Here's how much you made. Here's how much you owe in taxes. And then the business owner looks at the accountant and goes, where is that money? And the accountant looks at him and laughs at him. It's a paper number. You spent it. And that's a problem because we're in business to make a profit. But if you keep spending your profits, then we have a problem. And that's the same thing what people have. They have lifestyle inflation. No matter how much you make, you tend to spend a little bit more. And that is the bigger problem that happens in society. So that's the basic premise of the book. I could have written the book for personal finance because the principles that are in that book are the same principles I use to build wealth. automate your finances, send your money where you want it to go, and live within a constrained budget. And so that's basically what it comes down to. So the constrained budget comes down to something called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law says we will use up all the resources given to us. So I know you've got 2 kids and they go to school and they give a project and they have 3 weeks to do the project. It takes them 3 weeks to do the project. Not because it took 3 weeks, because they wasted the first 19 days. On the last day, they start rushing and finishing it off. But at the same time, if the teacher gives them a project and says it's due tomorrow, they'll get it done tomorrow, won't they?
They will.
And so we did that with time. The same thing happens for money, right? You say, I want to put in a new pool out back. Okay. How much do you have to spend? Well, I think I can spend 50 grand. Well, the guy's going to give you a 50 grand pool. If your wife comes to you and says, we only have $500, you'll go get a $500 pool at Walmart, right? You'll find the solution. So that is just one of the underlying principles. And when you understand that and you start to constrain yourself, then you end up spending less. It's the same thing. You go to the buffet, right? If the buffet place gives you a big plate, you'll fill a big plate. If they give you a small plate, you'll fill a small plate, but you'll end up taking less. That's why it's smart if you run a free buffet, a buffet, to give people smaller plates so that they don't waste their food and throw it out.
So profiting first is like paying yourself first and looking at it as, instead of living paycheck to paycheck, because that's ultimately what that is. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, you're not saving any money or putting some of that extra away. You really aren't turning a profit in your family. Like, you're just getting by. Like, it's all getting spent as you go.
So you never put a number on paycheck to paycheck. Everybody lives paycheck to paycheck, regardless of the amount. I don't care whether you make $50,000 a year or $100,000 or $200,000. You're still living paycheck to paycheck. The way you constrain it is before you get your paycheck, you have money taken out. So if you've got a 401k, take the money out before you get your paycheck and you just live on your paycheck. Some companies have stock purchase plans. Do the 401k and the stock purchase plan. Some companies are associated with credit unions. So do the stock purchase plan, the credit union, and the 401k. And then when the money gets into your bank, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, create automatic withdrawals into maybe a brokerage account or something else where, the money comes in on the 15th and on the 16th, they swipe it out and they put it somewhere else. You'll live on your constrained budget. But if you automate the savings and you automate the money going out, you never see it, you never miss it. And somehow we all tend to live within whatever that amount is in our bank account.
Well, in Profit First, he talks about spreading your money out into like 5 different checking accounts. I don't know if that would apply to family household finances, but I would think one of them would be your profit account, that you should automatically put that money in. That profit account would either, be your savings or your emergency savings or savings for your goals, right?
You could. So you could have your own account. One account might be the equivalent to the 401k. That's an account. Another account might be, if you need to build up an emergency fund, then create an account called emergency fund, and every paycheck put a certain amount into it. That's perfectly fine. If you want to buy a new car, you can start a car fund, and every month you put money into your car fund, and so that it's ready for when it's time to buy a new car. The smartest thing to do, let's say you have a car, it's 4 years old now, you just made the final payment. You do not go get a new car. You just create a car savings fund and you put your payment that you were making, that you'd never missed anyway, into this account. And then in another 2 or 3 years, you got money to buy a car.
Yeah, I think one thing that I like about it is you're getting very organized. Understanding and labeling your money and where it's going, what its purpose is. But I think sometimes, and I get nervous about this because some people that I coach, you don't want to overwhelm people. And when you're saying create all these different accounts, that could seem overwhelming to some people versus it just being different accounts at your place you're already banking, right?
It could be different accounts in the place that you're already banking. And many banks, you can set up automatic payments to yourself. And so just automate it. As a matter of fact, you must automate it, because if you don't automate it, you'll forget to do it, and then you'll spend the money, and then you'll be like, where'd it go?
Yeah.
So the more you can set it up and automate it and just start small, and then every quarter or every 6 months or when you get a raise, just increase the amount that you're saving. So just like out of simple math, if you started with 1% of your pay into an account today, and then 3 months you made it 2%, 6 months later you go to 3%, at the end of the year you go to 4%, at the end of 3 years you're at 12%, at the end of 6 years you're saving 24%, and you never missed a penny because you would have wasted it.
Yeah. I could see that being a problem for some people. That's like trying to start running again. And you're like, I'm going to run, 5 miles tomorrow. Well, if you haven't been running, that's not probably a really good idea. You might want to just jog for 10 minutes instead of going full on into it, because then you might get injured or be tired and then not continue to run. So I like the idea of what you're saying is to, kind of start small and start working yourself into it.
Correct. And you can start when you get a raise, because then you never had the money anyway.
Yeah, you're just used to it. What about, because I could, as a coach, you see people that like, I don't have any money to save. But what this book is talking about and the concept is that, you're flipping it. So you're paying yourself first and then you make your expenses fall in line, right? So they've got to.
Correct. You're constraining your expenses. So one thing that you can tell your coaching clients is go get your credit card statement and go get your bank statement and go down line by line and go, what was that? Why'd I buy that? Does it provide any value? Do I even remember what it was? Was it worth what I spent on it? We don't go out. Well, you can't go out much for dinner anymore.
I was gonna say, it's not really an option, right?
When my kids were a little younger, we would go out for very nice meals. And at the end of the meal, I would invariably say to the kids, hey, we just dropped $180 on this meal. Was it worth it? And a lot of times we started to realize it just wasn't worth it. So we cut back spending on meals. I can make much nicer food at home for a fraction of the cost, or we could go somewhere less expensive, because why not?
Right.
So it's constantly questioning all of your spending and asking yourself, does this really bring you happiness and joy? And is it worth it? And you'd be shocked. Like, I look at my credit card statement and I'll go down the entire list and it's thousands of dollars, but everything is 2 digits. It's $20 here, $50 here, $30 there, $80 there. The end of the month, it's a few $1,000s. Like, what happened?
Yeah. I like that. One, I feel like I'm not having really thoughtful conversations with my kids at dinner when we go out. If I've never even thought to ask that, or even, I think my husband and I have had those discussions, because I'm really big. I've mentioned on the show many times that a lot of times I feel like the same way we can make things better at home. I'd much rather invest in a really good cookbook than I would, go to a meal that's just like, oh, that wasn't even. I feel like some of the stuff when you go out to eat, it's like that could have been frozen food. That I could have just gotten that out of the freezer and heated it up myself.
Or you could just go buy some steaks. I mean, steaks are not that expensive at the grocery store compared to the restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So you can eat much nicer at home and go, and it's not hard to cook a steak.
Yeah.
Well, 11, 12 minutes and you're done. And some veggies, and life is pretty good. But yeah, I always have conversations with my kids about money.
Yeah, but I'm going to start asking my kids that. Like, was this worth it? But I have done that on some things that they've bought, because now they have their money to spend and manage, and saying, do you really want that? Is that something you're going to need? Like, are you going to continue to play with that? Is it, because if not, it's just, that would be like throwing, $50 in the trash can. But I never thought about doing that with going out to eat. That's a really great, because I feel like my one son, he's not really into going out to eat so much. So he probably would all the time be like, no, it's not worth it.
Even when you go to a fast food place, like I look at the bill, I'm like, 4 of us just ate fast food and it's 40-something bucks. What happened? It's not inexpensive. And my son is horrible. Like, he can't get out of Chipotle for less than $13, and there's nothing in his bowl because he eats only certain things. So it's like, what did you do?
So I think that's really important to look at what you're spending your money on. Like you said, I always tell people to use different colored highlighters to say, like, this was food, this was gas, this was, entertainment or whatever it is. But I think that's really being thoughtful about your spending, and with the mind of, this is a business. And if you aren't putting that money away, then you're not profiting. Like you're going to work all the time and doing these things and there's no profit.
So here's the cool thing. If you do this and people like, no one can think into the future.
I can, Rocky. I can.
You can, but most people don't. I think into the future, right? It's called freedom. When you have enough money that you can say no to the world, your boss is whatever. You go, sorry, I'm leaving. Bye. I quit because I can, because I have money. I'm not stuck, and I'm not a slave. Your boss actually will encourage you to buy a car, buy a bigger house. They want you to because that makes you more of a slave to them. You're stuck working there. You can't leave because, you can't take the risk now. So they always encourage that.
Do you remember the first Ghostbusters? Not the remake, the first Ghostbusters. And the very opening scene with Bill Murray. And it's a research study. And it's a really pretty blonde woman and this guy. And he's basically asking him if they can tell what's on the card that he's holding up. So he can see the card, they can't. But he's like, what's on this? And so he's trying to tell if, they can read it. And the girl keeps getting them all wrong, but he keeps telling her that, yeah, she got them right. The guy is getting some of them right, and he keeps shocking him. So that's like the punishment. Like if you get it wrong, he's like shocking it. And then finally the guy jumps up and he's like, you can keep your $5. But basically this guy needed that $5 so bad, he was willing to get shocked for it. And that's so true that you have the ability to be like, you know what, this is not worth it.
And it's nice to be able to say that. It's freeing.
Yes.
And if you can pay off your mortgage, you don't have that over your head, it's freeing.
It is.
Plus, you can save all that extra money, and then you've got even more. And then you get to do what you want.
Yeah.
How you want.
And that's important too, how you want, not somebody else dictating how it should go down. I think that's a really good point. I think when we all get in our bubble, we sometimes think, oh, this is the way it has to be, or this is the way it's going to be for so long. And versus thinking, I'm going to save my money and I'm going to get out of this situation or be in a better environment or get the things that I want. Or some people don't mind putting up with it because they're saying, I'm going to make the money to eventually do this other thing. But how can people start planning it and making it? Because I say it all the time. People say it all the time that you should be saving money, spending less than you make. How can people get started? You said the 1%. Is it just going quickly and opening the accounts?
Yeah. So if you have a 401k at work, start with 1%. All you have to do is log on a computer, click a button, and you're done. It takes like zero effort.
Or with the military community, they can use the TSP. So they can set that up for the money to be taken out. Yeah.
They can. And because that's after tax, it's pre-tax money when you actually don't give up 1% of your income because you're not paying taxes. So it ends up being a smaller amount than you imagine. Or set up an account somewhere else, even your current bank, and just have it set up to auto sweep money into it all the time. I remember when I was kids, they used to have Christmas savings accounts. The bank would take $5 out of your account every week so that when Christmas came, you actually had the money to buy Christmas presents. You didn't need to charge it and go into debt for the next year.
Yes. And then it makes the holidays even more stressful. That's just even worse. What about setting it up where it's less tempting? Like, is that a crucial part of it? Especially if you already have that inclination.
And so that's what Mike does. Mike has his savings accounts in places that are hard to get to and not easy to access so that it prevents you from spending money. You can't steal from yourself. That's the reality of it. When you start taking out that money, you're taking away your freedom. And that's really what you need to think about. So if you're the kind of person who that's an issue for, then yes, make it one of these banks where you can send money in, but it's like impossible to get money out.
Yeah, because you can't build wealth if you keep taking your wealth.
No, if you steal from yourself, you will never build wealth. That's your choice.
I tell people that if you take the money out, it's like stealing from your 85-year-old self or your 70-year-old self. Like you're not having the quality of life that you want.
Correct. Or your 55-year-old self when work really sucks and they just laid you off because we're about to hit another recession. And that's what happens every recession.
Yeah. That's a really good point that people don't think about when they get older, that the opportunities, and things have changed with more businesses online and just different types of businesses, but the opportunity for employment isn't there like it is when you're 20 or 30 or 40. And that is scary. Some people think, well, I'll just get another job. And that may have been their fallback position all through life. But as you get older, that's not really an opportunity. Just like when you get older, you can't borrow money like you could when you were younger.
Well, and plus technology keeps changing the world. So if you happen to be in a field that becomes obsolete, then you're going to have to plan for that. And technology has made a lot of fields obsolete. So if you're not improving your skills in doing that, then it's all the more reason that you need to make sure that you built wealth somewhere so that you do have the choice. And also the ability, like, even if you're a high paid person and you lose a job, it takes a while to get a new one. So that 6 months, that 1 year, you're not freaking out. You have the ability to do it. So I left corporate at 53 with a kid in college and another one about to start college. I'm like, I've had enough of you people. I'm out of here. But I could.
Right. I was going to say, you should throw that on the end. But you had taken the time to build your wealth to get to that point. Like there was a lot of planning and preparation, and you put up with stuff because you had a long-term plan or a strategy.
I did. I had a plan because I figured at some point I'd want out.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to do some of this stuff forever, have to put up with the same things. And some of that can get boring too. Well, I think that this book is really good for anybody. One, if you're starting a business, this is a very important book to read. I highly recommend it. I have, my course, The Financial Coaching Business Builder, and it is a book that I recommend people to read, especially because if you're starting a business for the first time, you're used to your personal finances, but now you got to throw business finances into it. So it's, a degree of difficulty, and you want to make sure you're starting that off right as well and not forgetting to pay your taxes. But I think it's a good personal reference for people too, to kind of get in that mind to start treating it like a business and grabbing hold of some things and having that mindfulness and measuring and watching what you're doing with your finances, I think is important. Is there any other advice you have for people wanting to start paying themselves first?
Start. That's the hardest thing. Just do it.
This is why we get along so well, Rocky. You're just so practical.
Now, if you're already started, then increase it, right? Set up an automated plan to keep increasing your savings rate. The higher your savings rate, the less you spend, the faster you have freedom, the faster you get to live on your terms. And you don't have to put up with crap anymore. Like, I don't have to put up with crap.
And let that be a lesson to you all. Don't put up with crap. If you build your wealth, you don't have to put up with crap. But it's true. Like, it really is true.
Yeah.
All right. I want to ask you a couple of quick random questions. First, what is one resource or tool that makes your life or business easier? I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Google Calendar. I run my life on Google Calendar. Even my family knows. It's like, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And you are welcome to send me calendar invites. So my kids would send me calendar invites to be at places. Same thing with my wife. Like, if you've got dinner plans, send me a calendar invite and we will block off the time.
I must be turning into you, Rocky, because I'm the same way. It has to be on my Google Calendar now, but that is genius at this point. Because just earlier today, I have to do something with my parents. And I was like, look, Dad, I got to put on my calendar. I was like, you got to give me a time, like, I'll just start working and I'll lose track of time. But I'm going to start making them send them to me. That's a really good point. Like, my mom wants to go to lunch, get it on my calendar.
Yeah. And I have an automated calendar, so I can send you a link and you can book a time. Plus, a lot of the kids, like my kids are now out, but when they were in school, a lot of the places create Google calendars that are shared. So it automatically ends up on your calendar too. Like their sports schedule or whatever activities, they create like the school creates it, and then it's there.
Yeah. I do have all my family stuff goes in red. So I know, like, at a quick glance at my calendar, like, that's top priority. Like, that has to be done. So, all right. Now, anybody that watches any of your videos online knows that you have a lot of books. So I want to know, what is your favorite book right now or your favorite book of all time? We're already covered Profit First.
No, and I wasn't going to say Profit First. You know what? I will tell you one. This book is probably the best for everyone. It's by Michael Hyatt. It's called Living Forward, a proven plan to stop drifting and get the life you want. So you go through this book. It's a very simple, easy read. It's a thin book. And at the end of it, you spend a day, you write your eulogy, you create your life plan, and you decide what you want for every area of life: spiritual, relationships, family, money, work. And you say, this is what I want from life. And then you just go do it.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like a very heavy book, but probably very necessary.
The book itself is very light. Doing the work is very heavy. I have a lot of my clients do it because I'm like, how can I tell you where to go and what to do if you don't tell me where you want to go and what you want to do? It usually takes me like 3 months to get them through it.
I can't believe I've never heard you talk about that book before. That book sounds awesome. And I mean, we talk fairly often, so I would have thought but yeah, I've never heard you mention that one. That's a really great recommendation.
It's usually on my bookshelf. You just haven't been looking at the books.
I want everybody to know there are like 1,000 books behind Rocky, so I cannot read all the titles.
So yeah, that's a great book.
I will be sure to put links to all of those in the, not Google Calendar, but for that book in the show notes for everybody. I'm definitely going to be ordering one myself. Now it is time for my favorite part of the podcast, which is game time. And I have a special game that I want to play with you today because it's you, Rocky. And this is a game I like to play with my family. And I really want to know what you think. So here it is. It's called If I Win the Lottery. So I play this game where if I won the lottery, which is timely because like the Mega Millions is up to like $1 billion or something crazy like that. So I want to know, you tell me and then I'm going to tell you your step by step. If you win the lottery, what would you do from the moment you saw that you won the lottery? You have the ticket in your hand. You've gone online. You've checked the numbers. What are the steps you'll take next?
I'm going to get a new cell phone. And then I'm going to go hide. Because the whole world's going to be coming looking for me for that money. And I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the emotions of it. I don't want to deal with the hassles of it. I'm just going to go hide. And you might see me in a year or two. Although I'll still be on the calls with you every week.
Thank you. Thank you.
And look, I mean, I have everything I want in life. So I don't think the money is going to... My wife wants to move where it's warmer. So, we might go get a nice house somewhere like, I don't know, on the beach or something like that. But my day-to-day isn't really going to change much.
That's pretty impressive.
And I'll still keep doing what I do now because I love it. I'll get help. Like I'll get an executive admin to take care of all the stuff I don't want to do right now. That's probably the second thing I'll do.
Yeah, I feel like nobody would know you won the lottery. That's how I would want to be too, is nobody would ever know that I won the lottery.
No. I have pretty much everything I want. So yeah, I don't feel the need for more. So that's the thing people don't talk about, right? We do have nice cars and stuff, but they all create obligations. Every time you buy something, it becomes an obligation. I look at these big houses, I'm like, someone's got to clean that, and there's a 10,000 square foot deck. God knows that's got to get replaced every 7 or 10 years. And someone's got to mow the lawn. And, then you need all these people around you to do all this stuff. And then you got this big empty house. Now you feel obligated to have people come over, right? And then they drive you up the wall. And so
Rocky's just going to put up a big fence.
Yeah, I just won't tell anyone.
Well, the first thing I would do is sign the ticket. And then I would go put in a safety deposit box. And then I would call an attorney. And then I'll probably call you, Rocky, and be like, oh my gosh, Rocky, I'm going to get all this money.
Hide. Get another cell phone.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you playing If I Win the Lottery with me. I was curious to hear what you would do. But that's good to know that you'll stay grounded, Rocky, and you won't change much.
No, I won't change much. We'll have to probably think a little bit bigger, but that's okay.
Yes, I'm sure you could find something to spend your money on. If not, you could buy me a beach house.
There you go.
If you don't know what else to do with your money, I'll take a beach house.
See that? I haven't even won the money and people are already asking for stuff. This is why I'm running and hiding.
This is a good example of why you don't tell people if you win the lottery. Well, I appreciate you playing the game and being on the podcast. Can you tell everybody listening where they can learn more about you and what you're doing?
So I have 2 podcasts. One is called The Profit Answer Man, where we speak to business owners about how to ensure you're profitable. And then the other podcast is called Rich Your Soul. So the premise there is, how do you figure out your purpose, right? Like we talked about with the book, how do you know what you want? And then how do you have the right mindsets to do that? And then how do you bring harmony to your health, wealth, time, relationships, and spirituality? How do you essentially create the ultimate life?
Well, I will be sure to put links to all your podcasts and how people can get a hold of you in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much, Rocky. I always appreciate talking to you.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks to Rocky for coming on the show to talk about paying yourself first. Thank you to Charles Schwab for the work they do to help the military community achieve better financial outcomes and for supporting the Military Money Show. You can learn more at schwab.com. Also, you can head over to lacylangford.com to get the show notes and all the resources. I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you next week.